Alright, so we've got an app that lets people text in and join a broadcast list, but right now there's no way to actually broadcast text to the whole list. So what we want is the administrator to be able to do that. So I'm going to add a real simple UI to do it. I'm going to put a horizontal arrangement in, and that's just to make the display go, horizontally across. And then what I'll do is add a text box. A text box is where the user can enter a message. Okay, I'll call this the message text box. And this is where the administrator of the app will be able to type and then send out a message. Okay, the hint for this will be, enter a message. Okay, the hint only shows up when the text box is empty. But let me add a button here, and this is kind of the submit button, right? So the text on it will be broadcast. That way the user will know they're sending it to everybody. And let me rename the button the broadcast button. Alright, so kind of a simple form for broadcasting messages to everybody in the list. Alright, so over in the blocks editor, we've dealt with the message received event, so we're adding people to the list. So I'm going to kind of hide that for now. And what I want to do is show what happens when the user clicks the broadcast button. So our event is going to be broadcast button.click. Okay, so when my user clicks that button, what do we want to happen? Well, what we want to happen is we want to send a text to everybody. So I'm going to actually go reopen this guy, and I know I want some blocks where I set the message to something, so I'm going to copy that, and I know I'm going to want to set the phone number to something, so I'm going to copy that, and I know I'm going to want to send a message. Okay, so I know I want to do these three things, and I'll go ahead and re-hide the texting.message received. But I want to do these things to, everyone. So I want to set a message to, in this case, what I want to set the message to is my message text box. So the users type something in that text box. I want to grab the text that they typed, and that's just the text property. Okay, and I want to send it to some phone number, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I want to send the message. Okay, but I want to do these three blocks a bunch of times, depending on how many people have joined my broadcast list. Okay, so what I want to tell you about is how to iterate through a whole list. We really want to do some blocks like this to our whole list. And if you go to the built-in control blocks, there's something called foreach. And foreach lets you do some stuff to an entire list. And whatever blocks you put in here are not going to be done once, but they're going to be repeated a number of times. Okay, so I'm going to call this, instead of var, I'm going to call it number. Because this guy represents, oops, I guess I already have a number, so I'll call it the number. Okay, this guy represents the number as we walk through the list, the current number we're on. Okay, and the list I want, of course, is going to be in my blocks. I just need to get a reference to my broadcast list. So I want to loop through everything in my list. As I'm looping through, the current one I'm looking at is the number, and I want to send a text. Okay, so in this case, the phone number I want to send my text to is the current number as I walk through my list. So I'm just going to go grab the number or a reference to the number and stick it in there. Okay, and voila, I'm done. So the way this for each works is walk through this whole list, stick each phone number as we're walking through in the variable the number, and then what I want to do is grab the message that the user typed in that they want to broadcast to everybody, set the phone number to each number as I'm walking through, and send it. So this will actually, let's say I have 10 people on my broadcast list, this will send 10 messages.